Now, as I sometimes do, I will be sending you a link to a very compelling and informative article written by the author Yankee Tauber, explaining the Kabbalistic dimensions of the relationship between Yaakov and Esav, wherein Yaakov represents the world of tikkun, a word many of us are familiar with, literally part of the expression tikkun ha'olam. Tikkun means correction, but it also means a reality in which everything has a place and a structure. Tikkun really represents structure. It also means correction, and tikkun ha'olam is meant to represent correcting or bettering the world by correcting the wrongs that exist. But it was originally not meant in a sociological sense, but in a spiritual sense. And as we say in the Aleinu, the taken olam b'malchut shin daled yud, that we are to correct the world or rectify the world under the sovereignty of the Almighty. So it's actually a spiritual dimension, which can also be implemented in the physical realm, including charity and social action. But that's not primarily what it means. Esav represents the world of tohu. Tohu, we know, is like chaos. In the beginning of the creation of the world, it says before everything was created in its varieties, there was tohu vavohu, tohu and vohu. Tohu represents kind of an emptiness. Bohu is really, it's sometimes translated like chaos. And both of these realities exist. Both of them have something positive. And as the article indicates, that the world we now inhabit and know is the world of tikkun. But originally, God created the world in a way of tohu. And this, in fact, was not sustainable. And the vessels with which the world were created shattered, in the Kabbalistic sense. And therefore, it was understood God created the world in a way of tikkun. And nonetheless, this chronology or this modus operandi was used by God, not because he didn't know there wouldn't be the breaking of the vessels, but because he wanted us to have within this world of structure the possibility to find the shards, the broken bits of vessels containing enormous power, and to use them to good use. And this is really where we come to the ideas of tohu and tikkun and what they represent. The mystical teachings tell us that tohu is a world in which there is powerful light, but not enough vessels to contain the light. A tikkun is the opposite. An abundance of vessels, structure exists, but the light is weaker. Now, from a rational point of view, clearly what you want is tikkun. Well, let's have a little bit less light, but let's have structure. Let's not have chaos. But as Jews, of course, in the Torah, we are never satisfied. We want to have the best of everything. And as Hasidus explains, that the ultimate goal is to wed them together, wherein we have a phenomenon where we have the powerful energy and light of tohu, but that they are contained within the vessels of tikkun. So Yaakov is the Ish Tam, the tent dweller who studies, He represents order in a positive sense. Esau is raw energy. Raw energy without being contained properly is destructive. Tikkun won't be destructive. But the ultimate goal is that this raw energy can create and achieve much more than Tikkun can. The question is, how do we do that without the risk of destruction that is implicit in Tohu? And the answer is that we strive to unite them. And the uniting of Yaakov and Esau represents this uniting of Tohu and Tikkun. And practically in our lives, it represents the uniting of raw energy with structure. So in your lives and in our service to God and in our spiritual lives, when we try to implement the unity of Tohu and Tikkun, what we're really saying is that we want to have this deep energy, which generally we find manifested in the negative, and together with the structure and guidance of Tikkun. And just to illustrate that point, if you're listening to this lecture, you're interested in spiritual ideas. If you're like 99% of the human population, you also have another side of you that enjoys things that are not spiritual. And if you had to decide when are you more passionate and when is there more kind of a raw energy, you would associate that with your involvement in the material and the non-spiritual, and maybe even look at that as something bad. Then there's kind of the good you that listens to the rabbi's lectures and so on. But this is the more docile, calm you. But the Torah says this is not the goal. That we should be importing that passion from Tohu, from the negative into the holy, and then the holy becomes incredibly more powerful. Not only the holy as a separate realm, but in our everyday lives as we try to bring holiness into it. And the bottom line is when Tohu and Tikkun are joined, that is when the redemptive state, which we now associate with the arrival of the Messiah, but it is not about an individual, it is about an era, and it is more specifically about a phenomenon that will exist. So after 20 years, Yaakov feels, when my father Isaac wanted to bless Esau, when my father Isaac wanted to create the possibility of transforming the energy of Tohu and harnessing it with the structure of Tikkun, he was wrong. He was premature. Esau wasn't there yet. But now after 20 years, maybe now the time has come. And as you see in the article, there is a kind of reconciliation, but it is only kind of, putting the guns back into the holsters, but not, as Yaakov realizes, the true unification of Tohu and Tikkun that he had hoped for, and he even hints at this, as explained in the commentary of Rashi, that when Esau offers to accompany him, even at the slower pace that would be required by Yaakov's children and flocks. So Yaakov says, no, you continue, we'll come after you, continue until Seir. Now Seir traditionally is where is connected with the Messianic revelation. But it would seem that Yaakov, the man of truth, is not telling the truth. He doesn't end up joining him. But Rashi says, no, the man of truth tells the truth. They won't meet at Seir during the physical lifetime of Yaakov, but at the end of days, the Jews, Yaakov and Esau, will be united. Tohu and Tikkun, chaos and structure, will be bound together in this powerful spiritual bond that will enable us to change the world and transform the world once and for all.